Welcome everyone to a very special PlayStation 3 unboxing. We have two consoles here, brand new from Japan, a 60 gig and a 20 gig. And so we're going to take them out, play some games, check out that early firmware, and just see what's going on with these very early gorgeous beauties. Okay, so first off, I'm just going to recommend, if you only want to see the consoles, use the timestamps. I always put them down there. Otherwise, we're going to go slow, take our time, and just kind of bask in the moment for what is a very special one, because you do not see these open brand new too often, especially a 20 where, at the time the retail split was 70-30, about maybe closer to 80-20, primarily favoring the 60. That's mostly what Sony was making and selling, and that's why the 20 was eventually discontinued. But I did eventually get my hands on one of those. You all know PlayStation 3, my favorite console. So that's what motivated this, is that, and I've had these for a while. So I bought this one 4 years ago, and then the 20 I bought like a year later after one finally came up. So I was always on the hunt for brand new ones. And so I had these since I was at my old apartment. And I knew I was going to be moving into this house and eventually setting up that display cabinet that you all saw. And that's going to be like my PlayStation museum, as it were. So I want nice, clean example consoles to put in there. And, with PlayStation 3, favorite machine. And it's also not just for the games, it's history and all that stuff, right? The sort of obvious aspects of why I like it so much, but I also really enjoy the console design. It's my favorite one out of all consoles. I love the sort of luxury avant-garde approach to its design language, with it being a glossy black and having those chrome accents, and from certain viewing angles, it looks like the console is floating. I love that shit. I eat it up. So to have a clean example of a console, brand new, the second you take it out of the box, and it's pristine without micro scratches, that is what I am looking for. Now, you'll notice right away, sorry, that's out of view, these Japanese consoles, and a lot of Japanese electronics, they don't put sticker seals on a lot of their stuff. It's just something where you got to take their word for it if you're going to be buying really old stuff. God, just right off the top. Sorry, stalling here, but the box itself, this is a very clean example for even just the product box. You don't see that too often at all. So that's why I've had those in box protectors too, right? It's just, my God, it's ridiculous. Get a better view there. I always found it interesting that the Japanese ones had no sort of promotional material on the back either. All black PlayStation 3. North American ones, you had some, screenshots from various games that were available day one or coming out. Now, I completely skipped past this at first, but this label down here is noteworthy because the stamp shows where the console was purchased. This was necessary to make the 1-year warranty valid, so there should be a date of purchase filled in here, but it was left blank. The red stamp right below that, though, does show what appears to be either the 19th or the 14th of February 2007. The 20 gig console does have its date filled in properly, though. It was purchased March 3rd, 2007. So as I discussed later, it was likely part of the final batch for the 20 gigabyte consoles before being discontinued. I remember this box quite well. So, we have a brand new 6-axis. Now, I've actually got quite a few 6-axis and DualShock 3 that are brand new, so I'm not too concerned about getting my oily fingers on this, but there it is. A shiny new DualShock 3. I do fully expect there's going to be a little bit of wear, just naturally over time, or perhaps with the console, traveling in transit and things like that. Do we even really need to look at the standard AV cables they would give you and things like that? That's always going to be in there. We should have a micro USB. Oh, we do have some Japan-specific cables, though. Is that little guy right there? But I think that's the only thing that's specific to Japan. Oh, your Ethernet as well. And then there should be our mini USB. So I'm just going to put those right back in. Because my God, do I have far too many of those. As for our paperwork, right there, looks a little different. We'll leave that down there for now. Oh, Daddy. There you go. Yep, it's very clean. It's so clean, in fact. Well, I say so clean, but it's actually got like a little bit of a, I don't think staining is the right word here, but it might be just a little bit of the packaging sort of getting stuck to it, and over time you've got a little bit of, gosh, I don't even know what you would call that. Just like the pattern on the paper imprints on the front of it. So that's bound to happen, but we've got a very noticeable print right there, which that's something where that could have happened at the factory, but I have noticed a lot with new old stock listings in Japan. I mean, this is clearly new. You can tell for the most part, but they do tend to take products out of the packaging, take pictures, and then they throw it right back in. Like, that's the problem, is that you know, the way they consider it new, as long as they never power it on and they've had it for a long time and it's in mostly new condition, they will sell it as new. So that was kind of what I was walking into. But we can see the front chrome here. This is not great to see. Looks like we have some corrosion. So and that's where it's also a bit risky. I don't know where they were storing this. I know for the time I had it, I was storing it in a pretty good spot. But it seems like the chrome is blemished pretty good here. So not great to see that, but you know, it's still mostly new. So you got to kind of roll the dice on these things, right? You just don't necessarily know for certain how clean it's going to be. As far as PlayStation 3s go, for the OG model with the glossy black plastic, at the very least, I can say this one's batting pretty good compared to most others out there nowadays. All right, moving on to the 20. Now that we have a decent idea of what to expect with how it may look like from either sitting too long or a combination of possibly being handled before being sold off to me. PlayStation 3. I think we'll just skip all that. We kind of know what we're getting into here. So this one, in theory, might look better with the chrome because it doesn't have, well, not a lot of chrome. Less than the 60. Yeah, this one looks a lot cleaner. But it does have, from certain angles, the same sort of slight residue from the paper sitting on it for a long time. The black trim, though, did fare a lot better. All right, well, now that they're both finally out of the package, we can, one, see if they turn on, but two, check out that very early XMB, and then maybe also test some software before they go into their final sort of resting position. Okay, powering up the 60, because it does have a red standby light, so I think it should be okay. I don't think if it took on any kind of long-term moisture damage that it was that severe, because it really seems to be only the chrome trim. You know, you just don't know with these things unless you open it up, but I really was not planning on doing that. Although maybe I might do it eventually. Either way, we're going to power it up now. Okay, so I don't know if we know this, but because this is, a console on some of the earliest firmware ever available, I would assume it ships with either 1.0 or 1.10. I don't remember, but if you connect a DualShock 3 to it, it keeps rumbling. It's like non-stop rumbling. It won't turn off. That's interesting. The default time is 1/1/2006. User 1. Looks good to me. That nice black clean XMB. That's what I like to see. Sign up for PlayStation Network. All in capital letters. So the old logo there. We do have PlayStation Store, all in caps. Remote play. This is even where like the XMB icons themselves were a little bit soft looking. So system update. And not a whole lot of settings. We are indeed on a very early firmware. Controller still rumbling, by the way. So let's check out system settings, see what we're on. We're on 1.31. So again, I wasn't 100% sure if this was like a legit launch model. It could be like a secondary batch or something, but at least with what this console shipped with at the time, it's 1.31. This DualShock 3 is still rumbling. I mean, if I remember correctly, I think the system software always kind of like had something with rumble in it. It was never enabled because they wanted to ship the console with rumble. It was just more a matter that they couldn't. So, like, proper functionality is clearly not there on this firmware. But, I mean, yeah, it's got to be. Clearly, it's recognized to some degree. PlayStation, baby. You know what it is. The OG. Time to go back to the basics. Wow, this still looks so good. PlayStation 3 outputting a very clean image for the original Tekken. Oh, jeez. Oh, jeez. Embarrassing. I'm a button masher. I'm not good at fighters. Come on. Alright, well, at least that wasn't completely embarrassing. Can Tekken fans explain to me what Yoshimitsu is? Because he always looks pretty damn weird. He never looks consistent. Outside of him being just some kind of samurai dude. Internal memory card is created. PlayStation 2 format software. Well, that thermal paste is definitely old. Jaku Dakusta. I do want to make it known that I probably would have played Jak 2 first if I had a Japanese copy of Jak 2. So I got to get around to doing that. I wish I could play this all the way up until the Fisherman, though. Or not the Fisherman, the Warrior. Because the Japanese one, the voice actor goes hard. Yeah, I think this console is already, like, firing off on the highest fan setting that it has after just a few minutes of Jak and Daxter. So, console is fully operational 17 years later, because it just passed over its birthday very recently. So, timely, but it's been sitting for that long. Runs out of the box like a beauty. Couldn't ask for anything better. Now, in terms of playing PlayStation 3 games, there's only so much we can play, because otherwise we're going to have to take on a firmware update, which most games will carry the update too, so you can, in theory, update and play that way, but we're going to keep this console as low as possible, so we're really just stuck to the launch lineup here. Well, I'll tell you, I was genuinely less concerned about if the console would turn on, and more about like, oh, I just want the shell to look really clean. It does look good, but the 60 does have some problems on it. But playability is fine. Every function so far does work. So kind of a win-win. But, you know, based on the external appearance, I guess it probably would be something where I might want to open it up down the road, see what's going on the board, and, you know, if there's any sort of like damage there. I imagine there's a real possibility that could be the case, but for now it does power on and work. It just would need new thermal paste if you wanted to really like start using it, but this is kind of a one and done thing for me right now. All right, checking out the 20 gig DualShock 3, same thing. It's just constantly rumbling, but we'll take a look at where this console is. All right, definitely still a very early firmware. And, okay, so we've got that going on. So in the date and time startup setting, the default time was 2007 January. So that right away was like, okay, it's not a launch unit, but I guess this is the problem with how long it's been since I since I bought these. I don't remember exactly what the listing said. I know one of them, which I guess it was the 60, said initial, which is a translation thing, right? So they could be referencing how it's the first edition of the console in terms of the design, with it being a 60 gig, or that could have meant like, oh, launch day one, but obviously we were close enough as is. But in this case, I think I did buy this irrespective of whether it said launch unit or not, because I don't really care if it's like day one, just looking for the console shell, obviously, at that point. But 1.51, so that would mean this console came out early 2007. That update was around that time. So it's close enough, right? It probably right before they were about to discontinue these things, if anything. But still, it's really early, and it does appear to be working just fine. Well, now that I finally have those out, I can throw them into the display cabinet, which I've really been putting that off. I don't know why, but I built it, and then I only put the Jack stuff in there. And then I did put up some Yu-Gi-Oh! Statues up top, which I can't believe how big they are. I was not anticipating that they would take up the entire top right section, so I might move those eventually, I don't know, but what I do know is that the center section is going to be PlayStation hardware, so got the new PS3s in there. I might try and clean them up cosmetically, but I gotta be very careful about that, so for now, just gonna throw them in, and I can start putting in my other new old stock PlayStation hardware as well. So I've got a launch PS5, which doesn't necessarily have to go in right away, but it is a 1015A launch model that I could open whenever and put it in there. Have a PlayStation 4 launch unit. I've checked that recently. It still looks very good and clean, so that might go in soon. And also some portables as well, which you will see very soon, so be on the lookout for that. But either way, thank you for joining me on this ongoing journey of the room setup tour and all that, the collection updates, and setting up this new PlayStation museum I'm trying to figure out. But again, thank you so much. I really appreciate all the support over the years. And with that, I will see you all in my next video. You take it easy.